JavaScript windows, how to manipulate windows and try to get information from our browser's viewport. So let's try to have some example inside our script tag. Here, let's have a function here, and with the function, we'll simply call it the window size because we just want to find information about our browser's viewport dimensions. So let's say we want to call this window size, and in here we want to let the width be equal to W, which is we're gonna call the window dot inner, we do the inner width, which is this one, and then we duplicate, we have to add another variable called h, which is gonna stand for the height, and then we'll do window dot inner height, okay, which is the first one. So now let's try to do an alert of printing our width, which is let's have our width here. Let's go to, so inside width we'll have this here, then we'll call our variable, so I simply concatenate this, so a variable W, and then we'll concatenate this, and then we'll give it a space in here in a comma, then we'll have a height at this side, so we'll have the height, and the height will be the variable h here. Okay, now let's see what happened. Now we need to call the function, so let's use a button to call function. Let me end this here. So we'll have a type of button, and we'll call an onClick. So we do an onClick, and we have to call the function here, so we see. Okay, so in here, let's say get window, okay, get window size. All right, so let's save this, then we'll get our button. So when I click on get window size, we have a width of 1070 and a height of 530. So that is how to get the viewport of our screen. What if we want to get, instead of to get just the size of the window, we want to see the resolution? So resolution of the screen. Okay, so to get the resolution of the screen, we can have another function, or we can keep this function and then just rename it so it makes sense. So we can say get resolution, and with the get resolution we can simply get that by still having this, and then we can call a screen object, which is screen dot width. Okay, then we can check for the screen object height here, that height. Okay, then with our bottom we're gonna call this get res here, and instead of get window size we do get window resolution here. So then let's see what we get to change. Yeah, exactly what we wanted. So we get this. So it's giving us 2560, but height, and forget about the width and height because it's here, but we can change that to screen. So your screen will show us that and that. So we can do your screen is okay. So we have the screen is 2560 by what? By 1030. That is the screen resolution. What if we want to check the available width and height of a screen? For the available width and height of a screen, we can simply do that by using what we call the screen available. So the same as the way we get the screen resolution, instead of that we can add what we call available width and then available height here. Then we get the same thing. So this is going to give us another. So this is getting what? The available, screen height and then the width of our screen. What if we want to get the color depth of the screen? So let's say we want to get color depth of the screen. It's very simple. We need to simply use the color depth property. So for example, I can just call that here the screen dot color depth. Okay, then I can only print out H. Here. Okay, so let me reload this, and then we get the color depth as well. So this is the same way we can use to get the pixels of the screen. So if we want to do the pixels of the screen, we can simply also use pixel depth instead of color depth here. So we call pixels depth here, and then we're gonna get the pixels of the screen. So this can be very useful in some projects, and the pixel is also what? 24. Look at our JavaScript window location. So we're gonna actually look at let me add a comment here real quick. So let's say we want to look at how to get our current URL, how to get a current URL of the window. So window here means getting the current URL probably of the link here in the browser. So how do we do that? We can use a simple function to do that. So instead to use this, I'm gonna use a URL here, and then let me clear this one. Okay, so we're gonna do a simple alert here and then get our window. So we have the alert, and we can say the URL of this page is, so here we'll have window dot location. So location, then we'll do dot href, and that will fetch us the link. And here let's use this function call. Let me copy this and then get it here real quick. Okay, so this is get page URL, great. Okay, let's try this in the browser. So anytime we click on this, we get the URL from the page. So let's say we've opened google.com, it's gonna fetch that link for us inside our code. But what if we want to get different part of the URL, not the full URL we are looking at? We can simply do that by referencing that in another way. For example, we can just use document.print to get most of the part, but let's do it on the alert. Let's see. So for the alert one, we want to get the full URL. 2, we want to get let me do a BR here, bracket here on the next line. 2, we want to get the protocol of the URL. So I can simply copy this and then paste it here. So instead of the window.location.href, I can do the window.location.protocol. So protocol of the URL or the current one page. So let's refresh, and then we have the protocol. The protocol here is what? index.html. Then we got a break there, but what we are looking for is actually the index.html. We have a break here because there's no concatenation here. Okay, so next let's look at how to check, probably if we want to check the host name with ports, like our local host, like localhost /3000 and all that. We can simply do that with another way. Let me see, this is to concatenate. Okay. Okay, so for us to check the host, we can simply do the same thing and then add a host to it. So we need to find a local host for ours, but we do not have any host for it. For example, if we had something like a local host, maybe local hosts with a port of 3000, then we can display that one, which is this one, the protocol here. But we do not have that because we are just using a raw link. So anytime you do .host, then it gives you the host name with port like the local host I just talked about. But what if we want to only print the host name? The host name will be like something like www.google, and we can simply do that by adding what we call host name here. Instead of host, we can do host name here. Okay, so I get it here, and we have let me get all these ones out. Let's do it one by one. Okay, so we have a host name, but this we didn't get the host name because it's not actually a domain name. If we were saving this from a URL, then we'll get something like maybe some www.html, maybe www.html, index.html, something like that. Yes, so let's try to get the port. If we want to get a port, for example, if we have localhost of 3000, we can simply do that by also calling the location port here, and that will also work for only the port. What if we want to also search or print the path name? It's very easy. Just add in path name like this, path name, and then we can get the path of the URL printing on the screen. So this is the path name. Since this is a direct path, it's gonna show that, but we didn't get a port and then the host name because it's not from any URL. It's just a file we open in here. And after the path name, we can also do something like print a fragment identifier, like a feature inside our link. For example, if we want to do that, we can use what we call the hashing, and the hashing can display that for us, but it's not a URL. So that is how we can actually find some locations we want inside our inside our link here in the tab. So you can experiment with most of them by just typing a comma, and then you get typing a dot here, and then you get all that you can experiment with when it comes to window location, and drilling it down to getting the current URL and then each element inside the current URL. So that is how to manipulate that. Okay. Okay, what if we want to load another resource from a different URL? So let's say we wanna let's say we want to load another resource from a URL. So if we want to do that, for example, let's say we just want to use probably google.com to do that. Okay, so let me comment this, and inside this function we'll use window. So we got window dot location, which we just use right now, location, then we assign it to the URL we want to get the resource from. So we can simply put in any URL here. So we can do probably a google.com or any form of URL we can get straight from here. So let's say we want to use repairs for that, so we got it in here. So let's go .com. Okay, so with this one, let's try to load this resource. So anytime you want to use an external resource, we can just use that, and then it goes to that resource straight for us. So that is how, that is how we load another resource from a URL. So any resource you can do slash some file inside your host, and then that it's gonna load correctly using this windows dot location dot assign. Okay. What if we want to replace a new URL that we have? This one, if we want to replace a new URL. For now, let's check what we got. When we click on this, it opens, yes, and then changes that. But what if we want to replace this URL we already have with this one? we can simply do that with using the replace object here, and when we click on it, it will replace. It works similar, but you see what is happening here is it takes totally in charge of the URL, and you cannot go back to the home. So that shows that it has actually replaced it. For example, if I click on it again, this is going to change, and then I cannot go back to it. For example, you see here I can go back because it's not replacing it. When I click on this, it opens this, and I can go back to this, so but I cannot go back to the local URL. So it has totally replaced this URL from the browser. So that is how that one works for the replace. And what if we want to load new document in the window? If we want to load new document in the window using a URL, you can simply replace that with the href with innerLink, and that will load correctly using that link. Let me see. Yes, so let's do href that will be equal to this one instead of putting it inside the round bracket. Okay, so we get that again using what? Load new document in the window. So loading new document, you can do this, and then you will load the whole new document in the window.